Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Just One More Podcast. This is August 14th of 2022. And I'm Jeff from Just One More Level. And we have John from My Brain on Games. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. I'm getting over a headache I had, but I took some Tylenol after taking a nap, and it seems like it's finally kicking in. Headache's going away.
Well, that's over the last week, you had a little bit of an adventure that you finally got to partake on. As far as the games and stuff that you played, anything that stands out over the week going into your special trip?
Yeah, so spouse and I went to Washington, D.C. this last week. Got to see a lot of the monuments and went to a couple of the Smithsonian museums on the National Mall. It was very cool. As you can expect, I did not play a ton of games last week. I did bring my Switch just for the off chance that I had some time, and of course with layovers and just the plane flights did have a little bit of time. I didn't really intend on starting anything new. I just figured I'd probably dabble with Picross, the Picross game I've been playing, which is the I think it's like Sega Master System, Sega Genesis Picross game, which is very cool. A lot of cool pixel art from those two consoles, soundtracks to match. But I did actually start something new. Like I said, did not intend on it, but I did start Shining Force.
What? You Shining Force?
Yeah. I just I think it was on one of the flights to Washington, D.C. I think it was the flight from St. Louis to Washington. I decided, I was just kind of like looking at stuff I had. I was like, well, you know what? With the Sega Genesis Classics collection, whatever it is, I'd been playing through some of the RPGs in chronological order. So I had done Phantasy Star 2. Yeah. No, I did. Yeah, I did Phantasy Star 2. I forget what the one I played recently. Fatal Labyrinth. No, Fatal Labyrinth is one in there, but there's another one I played in between. It was the one that Sega AM2 made. Nothing to write home about, but I think like chronologically the next one they released that's in that compilation would be Phantasy Star 3. But I thought, you know what? I've started Shining Force like once or twice, just checking it out with you, and of course just checking it out by myself. And so I finally thought, well, let me just plug it in again. And so this time I think I'll stick with it. I've put like 4 hours into it. So besides that flight where I started it, I also played a little bit in bed at the hotel. And yeah, I made it 4 hours in. I've probably done like a half dozen battles, and it's only like 20, no more than 30 hours long, so I may stick with it, may see it to completion.
Well, when we were, I'm not exactly the most like, let me plan out my roadmap of the games that I'm going to be playing over the next, week or so. But for you are fairly more mapped out, so the fact that Shining Force just kind of slithered in there.
Snuck in there, yeah. I mean, it is one on my backlog, and like I said, I think even whenever I wrote my review for Phantasy Star 2 and whatever that other RPG is that I can't think of the name of, I know it was developed by Sega AM2, but I think in my review for that one as well, I even mentioned, hey, I'm working my way through the RPGs in this Genesis compilation, and I decided to do them chronologically. But like I said, I just figured I don't feel like playing Phantasy Star 3, kind of a more traditional RPG. I kind of feel like playing a tactical RPG, so boom, started Shining Force.
Well, and I mean, that's as surprising as it is, like Shining Force is one of my the earlier Shining Force games are more of my favorites. Like the stuff, well, I guess for the most part I haven't been able to really try Shining Force 3 because even though I got a Saturn, I really don't want to pay the prices on that, and I haven't gone the emulator route to check it out. But Shining Force 1 and 2 are two of my favorite RPGs, especially in kind of that like pseudo, like almost like right before the golden era of like the SNES RPGs. Like the Genesis had some good RPGs on it, but
Yeah.
there's like it's like those Shining Force and Shining Force 2, and then there was Shining and the Holy Ark, I think, and like the series or Shining in the Darkness. Or, well, I guess
Yeah. Shining in the
yeah.
Darkness is technically the first game in the series, that first
Yeah.
person dungeon crawler. And then Sonic Software Planning, later known as Camelot, then they made the Shining Force games. And you're
Yeah.
saying you didn't play Shining Force 3. I imagine you also have not played Shining Force CD, which was a remaster of Shining Force Gaiden 1 and 2 for the Game Gear, but on the Sega CD.
I have not, but
So, hey,
you know,
there's another one to put on your backlog.
yeah, and you have the CD add-on for the Genesis that we could try to check that out. I'm not sure what the prices are
Yes.
of that one, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
what I was
it's
gonna
also
say.
up
It's-
there.
Yes, but like the same thing with you in Shining Force 3, I'm not going to shell out at this point,
Yeah.
the 100 plus, 200 plus, whatever it is to play it. Of course, I think on the new Sega Genesis Mini that Sega is putting out, they've been slowly releasing what games, the game list, what's going to appear on it. And this one is cool because they are going to do Sega CD games, and I think even I think this game was announced, Shining Force CD.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's definitely one of those games that's a series that just I really like.
Yeah, I
despite the
figured you'd
fact
get a
of-
kick out of me starting that.
I really wasn't expecting, because in the last episode I think you talked about, obviously the evergreen titles that you kind of play is stuff like Picross and Pokemon, the games that are just always there. And of course, with you going on your trip to DC, not really giving a lot of openness to dive into a new RPG of sorts, quote unquote new. So yeah, that was kind of surprising. I was not expecting to hear you talk about Shining Force over your trip to DC.
Yeah. Now I have not gotten back to it since we got back Friday night. Just been doing other stuff, but I do have my 8BitDo M30, that Sega Genesis style 6-button controller, and then the Retrobit Sega Saturn style controller sitting next to me fully charged. So I'm looking forward to plugging it in on the TV, plugging the Switch in on the TV, and playing with one of these kind of authentic controllers.
Well, kind of segueing a little bit into the not really. I mean, we're already kind of here, so it's not much of a segue, but kind of continuing on this path of not really planned for games that we played over the last week. I'm sure that you have heard that Sony and Guerrilla Games were shutting down the servers of a couple of their earlier PS4 and Vita titles, and even some of their, I think one of their VR titles. So I was like, you know what? When I got the PS4, Killzone Shadowfall was one of those games that I got and played a little bit of it at the launch of the PS4. I liked it, but it really wasn't something that kind of kept me wanting to play more. As far as like the single player goes, I didn't really touch the multiplayer. I liked the first Killzone. I really enjoyed Killzone 2, despite all of the stigma and just a lot of the self-inflicted wounds that Sony created going into the release of Killzone 2. Like I really enjoyed just what they did with that. Played a lot of the multiplayer with Killzone 2. Then with Killzone 3, I played about half the story and just fell out of it. Didn't do much with the multiplayer, because the multiplayer was a little weird. They added a couple features to it that I just didn't really vibe with me, I guess. But with the launch of the PS4, I wanted something to really showcase this new toy that I purchased, and unfortunately, Shadowfall was a fairly average single player experience of the first couple of hours that I played of it, and I think I played like a couple online matches, but I quickly shifted gears away from Killzone. But around the release of Killzone Shadowfall, Killzone Mercenary hit the Vita and was kind of a different take for Killzone. You got to play as a mercenary, not really tied to any of the two main factions of the story, either the Helghast or the ISA. But I really, because of the experiences that I had with Killzone, I really didn't want to pay full price for Killzone Mercenary because I didn't really want to get burned again. Like, people were saying that it was good. It was good for being on a handheld. It was good for what the Vita was able to showcase for it. But
now,
I was like,
is it a first-person shooter like the other ones, or is it third-person?
Yes.
I think.
Yes, it is. It is also first person.
Okay. It was just the PSP game that was like third person then.
Yeah. So, for the most part, like $40, that's not a lot to take a chance on with the game. But if it's something that I'm really not excited to play, then $40 is, if I spend $40, get the game and didn't like it, that's a kind of a waste of $40 that could have been put towards something else that I would much rather want to play. So I kept waiting, and then as time went on, obviously the Vita didn't really get the support or traction, so game prices didn't really dip too far, and like the local game stores, whether GameStop or Vintage Stock or Game Exchange around the Oklahoma area, prices really weren't dropping for Vita titles, even the secondhand prices.
I mean, we just never saw it.
Well, yeah, and that brings up a whole other issue, is that they just weren't around. And
I mean, the supply and demand is going to dictate. Hey, we don't have a lot of these, so we're gonna charge good price for them.
So I think it was about a year ago. I don't really remember, but I booted up the Vita like a year or so ago. Went to the PlayStation Store and finally decided, you know what? I'm gonna take the plunge, because Killzone Mercenary has been $19.99 on the PlayStation Store for the longest time. Anytime that I found it physically, it would be $35, $40, $45, $50. Like, occasionally I may see it below $30, but I just decided to take the plunge, bought it for $20, played a little bit of the single player, and I was actually kind of surprised at how good it was, and then I added it to games that I should go back to and play. Well, it never really made it back to the forefront.
Fast forward to now.
yeah, it never really got back. It didn't really get to the front of my games to play. But when the news dropped that Killzone Mercenary and Killzone Shadowfall were both going to have their online servers shut down on the same day, which was the 12th, I believe. I think that was Friday. Yeah,
Friday.
So early last week, I was like, you know what? I downloaded Killzone Mercenary to the Vita again, or to the memory card. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just play and see what I think of it, because there's I think a good portion of the trophy list for Killzone Mercenary involves online play. So I was like, I wonder how many of these trophies I can get before the servers go offline. I think I picked up 4 of the 11 or 12 online trophies.
Okay.
So, picked up a couple of them. Like, one of them was just complete 100 online matches, and I was trying to go for that, and I got 3 or 4 other trophies on the way. But I think I only did like 30 or 35 online matches. But a lot of people, like, I did not have to wait for any matches. Like, people were dropping in and dropping out left and right. I was kind of surprised. It seemed like a lot of people were kind of jumping on, maybe just to see how many trophies that they could get of the online. But
yeah, I'm looking at PSN profiles, and all the recent forum posts are people talking about that.
So yeah, like I was kind of surprised. I felt like, these games are fairly old at this point, like 8 years, I think, maybe, yeah, 8 or 9 years, depending. But I was really surprised that there was so much activity online, because even when I started up Killzone Shadowfall just to partake in some of the online of that game, there were full sets of like both sides had full teams and just everybody having fun, and it was just a really interesting kind of being in the moment of like the final days of the servers are there. So it was like it was a lot of fun, and then in the back of my head I'm like, man, I should have played these more, and I
Should have not waited until like a couple days before it went offline.
yeah, yeah. Because the online components, even in the final week, were running so smoothly. Like, I was kind of expecting that it was just kind of a done deal. That Gorilla wouldn't have really kept up the servers in good condition. That it'd be laggy and glitchy and just bugs everywhere. But no, it really wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think like there's probably a couple hundred people playing online, and the server capacity is probably built for tens of thousands.
Yeah, I guess it could be just just the capacity of how many people were playing. But like I said, it was so. I mean, even across whether it was Shadowfall or Mercenaries or Mercenary, the games just were super smooth. Everything, like really, the only downtime was match ended, looking at the stats of the game that you just had, and then start up with the next lobby, and boom, there you are. You're in a new match. I will say,
online going down now. Are you gonna continue a single player playthrough?
it did kind of get me to that itch of wanting to play through the single player of Shadowfall and Mercenary. I don't see Sony really doing anything else with Killzone, with pretty much Guerrilla being focused on Horizon at this point. And I don't think any other third party or their like second party studios are really interested in going back to Killzone after all this time. But it would be just kind of cool to see like maybe like a resurrection of sorts for Killzone, because it was kind of it was kind of a big thing for Sony for a while, but they've really have moved past it, I guess. Like but yeah, I was just really surprised. Like the gameplay was so much fun. The multiplayer just kind of seemed to hit a little differently right now. And I don't know if it's just because people were just hopping on and just enjoying the final moments of the online servers, but
yeah, just trying to clean up their trophies before I guess while they still can.
Yeah. And as far as like Killzone Mercenary, Sony had released some DLC for the game called Bot Zone, and there's some I haven't really seen a clear message on this, but because on PlayStationTrophies.org, in the trophy guide for Killzone Mercenary, every post that deals with the online trophies, also like they say something about like unavailable since the servers are now offline, but then like a couple sentences down in every single one of the online trophies says that this can be attained through Bot Zone. But the thing with Bot Zone is like it's $2.50 to purchase, and there's no clear message on whether or not if you play this DLC for Killzone Mercenary, if you're actually able to get trophies out of it that would be online multiplayer trophies. So
you could always just if it doesn't work, you'd always just request a refund through PayPal.
Oh yeah, I could always do that, and then have my entire PlayStation profile completely banned and unable to play anything that I have purchased over my very long time on PlayStation.
Yeah, it looks like some of those, it looks like some of the trophies are all multiplayer trophies, but not necessarily online multiplayer trophies. Because, yeah, looking through one of the forum posts on PSN Profile, they had the same sort of thing where it's like, okay, before the shutdown, these ones probably aren't going to be obtainable. Looks like there were some just like really like long-term required ones. These are the ones you need to shoot for, and then these ones you can still get in Bot Zone after the shutdown. So it looks like, $2.50, it may be worth purchasing if you want to clean up the trophies a little bit more.
Because like as far as, because in the PlayStation Store, like it lists Bot Zone as DLC that is kind of more along the lines of like a training mode of sorts.
Basically online multiplayer, but with bots instead of people.
Yeah. And yeah, $2.50 doesn't make or break the bank, but it still would be kind of frustrating to spend the money and then be like, oh, I still can't get these trophies. And that's the whole reason I bought this thing.
To get trophies.
Yeah. But I think I don't know if it was with Just One More Podcast or if it was just one of our conversations. Like you and I, we've talked quite a bit about trophies that have that online component requirement. Like you and I going through and boosting through Prey to try to get the trophy or the achievements for that because nobody was playing that online. But yeah, like I really wish that there was just a way for these trophies to still be earned after servers get shut down.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to the developer and I guess the publisher in some cases, but I think trophy lists are probably coming more from the developer because they're the ones making the game. But just designing their trophy list or achievement list in such a way that is attainable. And sometimes it's not. Yeah. Like, it sounds like in Killzone Mercenaries, it probably could be done since they have this multiplayer, like offline multiplayer mode. With Rainbow Six Vegas, that's one where I was playing last year or early this year. Yeah, started it and beat it earlier this year. And then after getting the Series X, and it's like, okay, well, let me hop back into that a little bit. And then, kind of the same thing, coincidentally found out, the online servers are still up, but they're set to be shut down in like 2 or 3 months. So in the back of my mind, there's the thought where it's like, well, I can still go and get some of those if I wanted.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it is, nobody is going to be able to get all of the trophies and all of the achievements out of every game that comes out. So you just kind of have to pick and choose your battles of what games you really want to try to get that 100% completion on.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it should come down to I'm getting the achievements in the games that I want to play, not because I'm going for the achievements or trophies, but because I'm playing. I want to play the game.
But that to kind of another side of that coin is just the fact of like playing Killzone Mercenary and more playing Mercenary, not so much Shadowfall. Like Shadowfall was still fun, but with Mercenary, it was obviously I was seeing a lot of the same names in every match, even though there was a lot of like drop in, drop out, and new people would show up. But for the most part, like I was seeing a lot of the same people playing.
Yeah, I mean, before that server shutdown, it's going to be that small pool of dedicated people trying to get any of the achievements, trophies before they don't have that opportunity anymore.
With Shadowfall, there wasn't a whole lot of repeat names. There was one thing with Shadowfall is, or not with Shadowfall, but with Mercenary is that the Guerrilla Warzone, I think is what the team deathmatch mode is called. For that one, it maxes out at 4v4, so you just have 4 people taking on 4 people. With Shadowfall, it was more the 5-on-5, so there's more people per match on Shadowfall than there was Mercenary. But even with the slightly bigger team ups on Shadowfall, I still wasn't really running into the same names as I was with Mercenary. So like as I'm as I'm playing Mercenary, I'm kind of seeing the same people over and over again, and it's just like, damn, this guy's really good. And man, I really hope that on this next matchup that this person's on my side, because this person has learned this map so well that just picking people off left and right, even right after spawning. But yeah, like with just kind of going into those games, I was like, I'm gonna give them a shot, just see how it goes. I'm not really expecting to be blown away by these games, because Killzone had kind of lost some luster with me. But then I was surprised. I was amazed at just how just buttery smooth everything was. And then it just really made me wish that I had played the games more. But maybe it was just kind of a combination of like, these people are just getting the last remaining trophies that they can. Everyone's just kind of having a good time, just kind of enjoying the end of days for these games as far as the online component goes. So maybe that was just kind of like the mixture of the moment type thing for that, because yeah, I was surprised. It was just definitely something that I was gonna hop into, see what I could get trophy wise, and then wound up like, man, I'm really enjoying this, and just playing because of like I enjoyed it versus just trying to get trophies on the list.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. Which obviously, with the surprise of playing those games, I did not get too much further in stuff like Eowyn Chronicle Rising. That is definitely a game that I booted up, played another like, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour, and then I saw the news about Killzone, and I was like, I'm gonna try to get those. So I didn't play a whole lot of Eowyn Chronicle Rising.
Triangle Strategy, did you beat that?
I did not.
Did you even
that
play
one, with that one, I put another hour into that one. A lot of the time that I was in Triangle Strategy was kind of reacclimating myself to the characters and the gameplay, because it had been a little while, and I was like, I don't fully remember who all did what. So just reintroducing myself to the characters. That one I should be able to finish in maybe 2 or 3 more sessions. And then I did, kind of slight segue from Triangle Strategy, I did play the demo for Dalefield Chronicles. I don't know if you have checked out that demo yet or not.
No, I did see that it came out.
Graphically, I'm not impressed.
What type of game is it? Is it strategy, tactical RPG, something like that?
It's kind of all of the above. It's an RPG with a lot of tactical gameplay mechanics. It is also fairly real-time strategy. You move your characters around, and as long as they are near an enemy, they'll just start attacking if you tell them to attack, and they'll just keep attacking until you tell them to do something else, or until the enemy dies. You can set up waypoints and just kind of like, well, I want you to go to the north first, and then I want you to head to the right, and then I want you to come down so that we can do kind of like a pincer attack on this one enemy.
How large of a group are you commanding?
In the demo, it was 3 players or 3 characters that you could play as far as I went in. I'm not quite sure what the final party size will be, but I'm probably more than 3, hopefully more than 3. But the characters are kind of forgettable. I don't remember the names of any of the characters. There's a guy that's on horseback. There's like an assassin thief person. And then I can't quite remember what I think there's a person on horseback that has a lance, and then there's the thief assassin type character, and then you have another character that has like a sword and shield. And like they were just kind of introducing like the tactics and stuff that you could kind of combo with these characters, but outside of combat, they are very forgettable. It is a very bland and drab world. It is fairly dark, and the music is good. The music is good so far, just based on what's in the demo. But I was always kind of going into it with a wait and see type of mentality. Like it wasn't something that I was like, I'm gonna get this day one. Whereas like Triangle Strategy was definitely a game where I was like, I gotta have this day one because it looks incredible. I like the HD 2D graphical style, and just anything that is close to like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre, I'm all for it. But with Dayfield Chronicle, the combat seems good, but everything else just seems fairly average to mediocre. But
yeah,
I mean,
I'm interested in it. I like the art. I don't think I'm going to get it, but right away at least. But I like the art style. I like the way it looks. Just looking from some of the screenshots, it looks like an interesting combat system, maybe kind of unique. The way it sounds to me, like what you're saying, you're controlling like what 3-4 other people, but instead of just a turn-based battle, it's real-time, kind of real-time strategy-like.
Yeah.
That seems interesting because whenever I think of like tactical RPG or strategy RPG, tactical RPGs, something like Shining Force or Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics, you're controlling groups of sometimes up to like 20, 30 other characters. So it may be interesting to see it on a smaller scale and, again, real time instead of turn-based.
And of course, the characters all have that like old English, and like the screenshots to me made it look okay. When you actually see everything in motion, it looks worse. I mean, they still have a little bit of time, but I don't know how much that's going to allow for like fine tuning or polishing things up. It seems like a lot of the money went into let's make a really good combat system, and then whatever resources we have left over, we can then put that into the rest of the game.
Yeah, well, as someone who likes crunchy games, that sounds up my alley. Put all your focus in the gameplay.
Yeah, which is fine. Like I said, I definitely enjoyed the gameplay portion of it. So like it's like, as far as the game goes, if you nail the gameplay, that's perfectly fine. That's what a game should be. You should have great gameplay for your game, which surprising. But yeah, I'm glad that I had just kind of like a lukewarm reaction to it, because there's so many other things coming from Square Enix this year that I'm like, okay, I can probably wait for that to go on sale. But as far as what you're currently playing, you said you haven't picked up Shining Force again since coming back from your trip.
Yeah, after we end this, I'll actually get back to it. Like I said, I charged those controllers, got them sitting right next to me, so I'm looking forward to diving back into that.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the Shining Force adventures. There's a few RPGs that I've enjoyed kind of going back and forth on the topics with, because as you've been playing like the Final Fantasy games, the Suikoden games, like being able to get your perspective and see how you thought of like story scenarios, or just how you interacted with characters, which I think is the biggest reason that I had so much enjoyment out of Three Houses, was just like so many characters, so many personalities, and just different ways to approach just the game itself. It's like, holy crap, there is so many different ways that I could look at this. So excited to hear what your thoughts are with with Shining Force. Which I've been kind of lukewarm as on the new Genesis Mini coming out, but I'm hoping that they do more with it. Like the Genesis has such a good library of games, and they kind of, it seems like whenever Sega does these collections, or they bring games from that era forward, it's always the same games.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with what they've done. Like there's on average like 1.5 Genesis compilations on every console from
Yeah.
really the Dreamcast forward. Like they started doing it with the Dreamcast for sure. Even on the Saturn, I mean they did like the Sonic compilation there. But the Genesis Mini 2, I mean, it's more for someone like you or me. It's more for hardcore fans because they are going with a lot of deeper cuts on this. So much so that, it's not being sold in America. There is an American version of it being made, but it's being sold by Sega Japan directly from Amazon Japan. So, I mean, that's kind of their expectations with it is like, yeah, we're not really selling this for the American market. We're going to have a version available for those people who want it, but we're not so confident in it that we're bringing it over.
Do you know how long the Shining Force game is that you're playing?
Yeah, it's like 20 to 30 hours.
Okay, so after that, what would you think is your next up to bat title?
Well, let's see. I did actually, before recording this today, I did complete Pack and Roll Remix. And actually, so the last time we talked, I was, basically trying to beat the game, trying to get the achievement for it in the Pac-Man Museum Plus collection on Xbox. And one of the things was for beating 25 missions, which is essentially the length of the game, beat the game in one session, in one sitting. Now, with the console's quick resume, I had been using that. So I'd basically just stop in the middle of the game and then close out of the game, but still leave it running in that quick resume, so I'd always be able to pick it back up. I was doing that up until I wasn't doing that. At some point, the console lost my quick resume, and I lost all my progress.
Save.
And you remember my tirade about the game last week too.
Oh yeah, like you were so enjoying that game. Like you were just having it could be confused as one of your favorite games of all time.
Yeah. So after that, you would expect that I would not continue playing that game, right?
If you were a normal, sane gamer, yeah, I would imagine that you would just say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm moving on to something else.
So I started it right back up, and
yeah,
I've now beat it. Now, to be fair, a lot of the difficulties I had, I did not have on this second playthrough, just because I was so familiar with the stages, so I was really able to zoom through the game. In fact, I even got right back to where I was within an hour and a half, or I think it took maybe 3 hours over a couple sessions that first time. So I was able to really speed through it. Now, I still had a ton of difficulty on the fourth world and fifth world, the two final worlds, and each world has about 4 to 6 stages. But the fourth world, there's one stage in particular that really just gave me hell. I probably attempted it 40, 50 times before finally getting it. Whenever I did, it was great. Finally done with that. And then World 5 was not as difficult, but the level design in this world was really, honestly, pretty cool. It reminded me, okay, this is why I'm playing the game, because it is a unique platformer. I'm controlling Pac-Man by just rolling him around. It almost seems like I would want a trackball controller for this game. But the stage design for World 5 was really fun, challenging. I still had a lot of difficulty, but it was kind of a fun challenge. There was one specific portion of a level where it's okay, this is just straight up bullshit. I'm having to launch Pac-Man onto these ramps, and the ramps are only just pillars. So I have to go from I got to ramp, jump, and land on these pillars, and basically do it all in one go. And then I'm going onto a platform that's about twice as wide as Pac-Man is, so very narrow. And again, the controls in this game are really finicky, honestly terrible. I have to go on a platform or on a platform, a little pathway that's twice as wide as Pac-Man is, and there's wind. Like, what?
Well, that's they're just trying to make it challenging for you. Like, don't you? I mean, coming from Elden Ring, you obviously enjoy.
I mean, it's a different
little bit of
challenge than Elden Ring. I mean, Elden Ring's something where you can grind. I mean, I guess the form of grinding in a platformer like this is just the familiarity that you get from dying a little farther into the stage each time. But did wind up doing it, and I got that achievement, popped that achievement just a little bit ago. And like I was saying then, I felt like it was within my grasp. It was going to be difficult, but I could do it, and it would be the rarest achievement I have. And sure enough, by far and away, it is the most sought after achievement I have. So I do have that going for me.
Well,
I do have a couple more things I will do in Pac-Man Museum Plus before I finish that out. I still need to max out a couple of the power-ups in Pac-Man 256, and I'll probably dabble with a couple more of the arcade games. I don't think I'm going to complete another game besides Pac-Man 256, like complete the assortment of missions they have for them. Yeah. So once I'm done with Pac-Man 256, I'm probably done with that compilation. And then I think while I'm playing Shining Force, I will probably start up that Deedlit game I've talked about once or twice now. I think I'll be able to kind of focus my efforts on both that and Shining Force and not really lose too much of the experience in either.
Well, just continuing to mop up some of these smaller games with Elden Ring not consuming all of your gaming time.
Yeah, and Shining Force, Shining Force is a longer game. As I've talked about, I like to throw a couple shorter games in before tackling another RPG, but I figure Shining Force, I think I was probably sitting in the hotel bed like Monday or Tuesday night and looking at how long to beat and seeing, okay, it's only like 20 to 30 hours. That's not super long. I think I can get through that pretty quick, and like I said at the top of the show, I'm already like 4 hours into it, so I made pretty good progress so far, I guess.
Yeah, that's... And it is nice to just kind of have these random games that just pop in and just fit just kind of that need of the time. Like you had talked about just not really wanting to dive into anything meaty because you were gonna be out and about exploring DC. Which I can't wait to see some of the pictures and hopefully videos that you have of that trip, because
I took tons of photos, got some good videos of and just happened to be by a fire station as a fire truck was leaving, so the little one really liked that, and then got a video of the subway for him as well.
And I mean, like. It was a good week to go to DC, considering some of the other stuff that happened during last week in the Capitol with some good bills passing, and but that's a completely different topic for something that is not gaming related. But yeah, for the most part, I think I will do a little bit more with Killzone, get through the single player stuff, because most of a good portion of the trophies, just single player wise, is completing chapters and acts and just getting a certain amount of kills with certain weapons. So fairly standard fare for those games, but I am looking forward to completing Triangle Strategy, getting that into the completed column. And then diving into Eiyuden Chronicle. I just got a little derailed when I was like, I could probably pick up some of these online trophies before the servers go down, and then not really have an opportunity again to be able to get those trophies. And then, like I said earlier in the show, just I was surprisingly enjoying my time playing the games. So I was like, okay, well, I will continue playing a little bit of these.
So then looking ahead to the week, you're probably going to be dabbling with Killzone Mercenary, Project Triangle Strategy, and Eiyuden Chronicle?
I mean, I will probably... since it does seem like I'm fairly close to finishing Triangle Strategy, and I've gone through the reacclimation process with the characters, I'm probably gonna push through Triangle Strategy, get that done, and then probably kind of bounce back and forth between Eowyn Chronicle Rising and Killzone Mercenary, since with Mercenary being on the Vita, which I will say, when I first booted it up and I had like one or two of the online matches, I was like, you know what, I need to hook up my PlayStation TV and play this with like a DualShock 3 controller. I think that would be a better experience. But then I was like, I really don't want to go through setting up all that stuff and try to get that working. So after a couple more matches of just playing it on the Vita, I just got used to that control style, and it held up really well, and I was having a lot of fun with it. So wound up going from, well, let me get this onto the TV and use a more traditional controller, to, well, I mean, the Vita controls actually, hold up pretty well.
So what you're saying is Resistance on the Vita is next.
I'm possibly, no, probably not. But with playing Killzone Mercenary on the Vita, I can kind of bounce back and forth, going from a console experience to a handheld experience, and like I said, Killzone Mercenary actually holds up pretty well on the Vita, so no need to really have that experience on a TV, or with a more traditional controller, because it does pretty well. So have Eowyn Chronicle Rising as my like grinding, trying to get the 100% trophies out of that game, and when taking a break from Eowyn Chronicle Rising, I can actually do something with my Vita, which is something don't really have a whole lot of like Vita success stories as far as like playing games on the Vita goes. Just had to wait for half the game to die for me to finally give it an actual shot to play. So yeah, jumping between console and handheld, I think, would be a good kind of back and forth, keeping things a little fresh. And then, I mean, Killzone Mercenary is not going to be a long experience single player wise. I think there's 9 acts in the game, or 9 chapters.
Yeah,
so
how long
probably,
the beat says it's like 4.5 to 25. It looks like if you're doing the story, it's probably going to be 4.5 to 7.5.
So yeah, and for anybody trying to get those online trophies, or get the platinum in the game, which now the platinum is unattainable, then whoever does have the platinum trophy, that's probably going to be one of their rarest platinum trophies to have. But yeah, like, since the single player is not going to be too long, and then maybe after Mercenary, I might go through the story of Shadowfall, because I don't think Shadowfall is going to be that long of a campaign either. But hopefully by the time that I'm done with Mercenary, I will also be done with Eowyn Chronicle Rising as far as the trophy hunting goes. That way it frees up the console for another experience on the console, which will most likely be Shadowfall. But
okay, well, guess we can probably
yeah,
call it then.
It was a good week of gaming. It was definitely a good week of gaming. So we will be back with another episode of Just One More Podcast. We'll have another slew of games to talk about, and who knows, maybe there'll be some surprises. I was not expecting Shining Force to be part of the conversation today, so who knows what might pop up next week for episode 6 of Just One More Podcast. I am Jeff.
And this was John. Bye-bye.
See ya.